Hey friends, Sammy here, your host of the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I'm so thankful to have you here with me. And today is a fun episode. I am going to be talking with the development chair for the board at the Waldorf School of Bend and one of their amazing volunteers who helped create a new campaign for the school. I'm not going to steal all the thunder. I will let her share it with you a little bit into this episode. But I love supporting nonprofits and being a part of what they're doing and how they're doing good in this world. It's most of my background was spent in nonprofit work, and we always are supporting nonprofits at the first click, whether it is discounted work or free work for them on their websites and consulting, or we always give away free memberships inside of our group as well so they can learn and grow. So I wanted to chat today with Rob Clemens and Erin Hansen to talk to them a little bit about how they're approaching fundraising in 2020, or I guess in the 2019-2020 school year, and how they're taking a new approach to support their goals and what they're trying to do. And we talk a little bit about kind of the hurdles it took them to come together to pull this together, and also, you know, the amazing feedback they've been getting from their community by thinking outside the box a little bit in how they fundraise and how they bring that to their local community and the community at large. So I hope that you will enjoy this episode, get some inspiration, and hopefully bring back some good ideas to the nonprofits in your world that you support through your business, or if you work at a nonprofit yourself. But before we get to it, this episode is brought to you by our 30-day website roadmap. This roadmap walks you through the things that you need to consider before redesigning or building a website. So we walk you through all of the elements that are important to have on a website so that you can pull them together before you start the process and save yourself time, money, and stress, because you know that you've got all the elements in place that you need and you can execute a website efficiently and easily. And who doesn't want that? So go to thefirstclick.net/30 days to download this freebie, and I can't wait to see your websites and check them out. Let's get to it. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Okay, I would love to welcome to the podcast today Rob Clemens and Erin Hansen. You guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. And I've already introduced you, but maybe if you guys could each kind of share your role, because I know you're both volunteer board members and volunteers at the school, but maybe introduce yourself and kind of why being a part of the Waldorf School is something that is important to you. Erin, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So really love for the education and what it brings to our kids, I think is the driving force for my volunteer efforts there. I get to function not only as a parent, but also as the community service and art project liaison for the school. So, you know, it has me going out into the community and sharing some really fantastic things that the school is up to, but then also sharing so much of what the education is about. And so for me, that's kind of my passion.
Awesome. What about you, Rob?
Well, Erin pretty much summed up all the same reasons why that I probably would have said as well. And yes, I'm on the board and on the fundraising chair as well. And really it's to kind of help the school develop into its next iteration and expanding programs and getting out into the community, involving the community in some of our community service efforts.
Yeah. And the message that I really want to share with this podcast, because I think I'm really excited about what we're about to get into, but being in a nonprofit world, there's so much that the staff does, but they really rely on board volunteers and community volunteers to help support what they're doing. And fundraising often goes first to the local community, not the local community, I mean like the community of people that are actually currently using your products and services. So in this case it's the students, parents, and families, right? And so that's something that I think can kind of feel hard and difficult to say, okay, how do we continue to motivate our families year after year after year to give back to this school? And you guys have come up with something outside the box that's pretty amazing. That makes it a win-win-win for our local physical community, our school, and our students. And I just think it's really cool what you guys have done. So, Aaron, I don't know if you want to kind of introduce what Forest for Good is and how you kind of came up with this concept.
Yeah. Yes. So Forest for Good was born out of a class project that our sixth graders took on last year. So we were raising money for our Wanderlust Ball, which is one of the major fundraisers for the school. And the kids decided they wanted to sell carbon credits. And so we were talking about what methods we could utilize to do that. And tree planting was one they got really, really excited about. Just being outside, being in nature, it's a huge component of the education. And so that one was that just felt natural and right. So what we did is facilitated getting some surplus trees from the Forest Service and working in conjunction with the Forest Service took on a planting project. And originally the kids were only supposed to plant 200 trees, but by luck, we wound up with over 500. And at first that number seemed a little overwhelming until we actually got out to the planting site and the kids got going. And they planted over 500 seedlings in just under 3 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And the project was actually so successful that the Forest Service used that planting project in their success metrics. So they were super impressed by the work the kids did and how it all came together, how organized the process was. And that's really where Forest for Good was born, was on this little beautiful 3-acre parcel with 500 seedlings. It got me to thinking, wow, what could we do if our whole school took on this project? And that's really kind of how it was born.
I love the concept and I love the idea because I think fundraising is such a hard thing for everybody to do. And so when you can pull that story into it and make it something tactical and tangible that people can really see, I think that's awesome. So
exactly.
Rob, you decided to come on this year as a fundraising chair or development chair for the organization. That's no easy task.
No, it's not.
So why was it that you felt like that was something you wanted to do? That's part one. And then part two is when you heard this concept from Aaron, did it make it easier for you to kind of step into this role knowing that you had something you could actually kind of quote unquote market to your base?
Well, absolutely. And we had previous concepts that we had already employed, but it goes back to what you were saying, that we were sticking to our internal community, right? And one of the aspects last year when I was just member of the development committee was that we were trying to figure out ways to get outside of our internal community, right? What can we sell or provide as a service potentially, or do as a community service? And so, those are pretty simple concepts, not easy to actually deploy. So when I got the email from Aaron about what they did with their project and how to expand it with the school, it easily checked all those boxes, not to mention you inspire people with it, and there's a greater need, not just within the local community, but the world, if you will. And if you consider the net effect for our kids too, so like as an example, my daughter being a kindergartner, by the time we've done this over the next several years, by the time she gets to high school, she basically have done, 9 to 10 reforestation projects. What does that do with our kids? Where does that take them as well? And that's an effect that I don't think we're going to be able to measure exactly.
Right. Like our kids being able to go show their grandkids the forest that they planted when they were their age.
Yep. And it prepares them for much, much bigger tasks as they grow older, and there will be more.
Right. So what has the response been? I'll let either of you answer this one, but what has the response been from inside the school as far as, okay, you want us every year, we go out, we pledge to our annual fund, we do all this. Have you noticed a shift in the energy from the school as far as now we are selling something we believe, not that they don't believe in the school, but I think you get what I'm saying, like something that is not just asking for more money.
Absolutely. I think, when we kicked the project off, it was at an all-school meeting, and just the energy that was shared and felt during that meeting, not only about the project, but the potential of the project was palpable. People were excited. They were glad we were providing them with an opportunity for something that was very relatable. We live in a beautiful environment, and we're always working to make it better. So there was that component there, anyone remotely concerned about climate issues, it addressed that. Love of nature, love of the forest, it addressed that. Recreation, it addressed that. So we checked off so many boxes that people could relate to with this project. And so the idea and the opportunity to go out and sell trees was really inspiring.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to jump a little bit into kind of the tactical execution. So if somebody out there listening is trying to think about, okay, well, I've got this great idea. Maybe I'm a volunteer and I want to support a nonprofit. I want to figure out how to kind of give back and do different things. There's a few things that you guys did right away, right? You got a committee together and you committed to building a one-page website separate from the school website to kind of tell your story. And now you're continuing to work through some tech things as far as how people donate and give to your organization. So what kind of lessons did you learn, or what advice would you give to folks that are maybe trying to create a new program, a new giving program in their nonprofit, and they just are paralyzed by taking the next steps?
Well, for us, I think the process is determining who you want to be communicating with. And so with this project, we knew we were going to be communicating with people outside of our community. And so creating tools to do that. So the website was a very vital and necessary component. And was not as challenging to pull together. When we think of websites, sometimes we're like, well, how many pages and how many this and how many that, and what are we going to say? Our website it's beautiful, it's simple, it's straightforward. We learned to tell our story in a very short, concise way, so that people can share it. And then looking at all the different avenues that people utilize to communicate with. So, implementing a text system within our internal community, utilizing some social media to get a broader reach. So kind of walking through all those components and addressing who your greater audience is, I think we all have grand visions for how we would love for things to ultimately be. But what we kept doing is bringing it back to the most basic and simple factors and forms. That whole KISS acronym is really, really important, especially if you're utilizing a group of volunteers, So keeping it simple, keeping it straightforward, and just keeping it clear.
No, that's great advice. And then I think what I would say, because I mean, we got the pleasure of working with you guys on this project. What I would say that I have always appreciated about those of you that are kind of making the decisions is that you're willing to think, as this was thinking outside the box to put this project together, also that willingness to think outside the box as far as how it all comes together, and the potential for it can go. I think with a lot of nonprofits I've worked with in the past, there's a lot of this, well, this is how it's always been done mentality. And so I don't know, I think it's just the culture that's at the school, but I think it's always been great to have conversations with you both. And Rob, I'm just curious from your standpoint, how you've kind of navigated that within the school, getting people to try new things and open their minds to new ways of kind of processing and putting things forward.
Well, I think part of it was the new concept kind of made that easy. And it also, we had to also kind of explain how it was going to expand upon what we've already done. The beauty of it was that 6th grade project last year that Aaron worked on was that we had a small sample size, a successful one at that, to draw upon. So the idea of expanding that to, from going from 500 trees to 10,000 trees wasn't as daunting when we could actually explain it would take, 40 hours of labor time, so to speak, from our whole school come the planting weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because 10,000 trees does seem like a lot.
It does. But, some of it too along the way to help keep them inspired. So people were fired up from the get-go, right? So that was exciting for us. But then we have to keep them excited as we go. So as we've gone, the school has shared out newsletters with statistics of where we're at, right? And so we've only launched the website for maybe 6 weeks now, 7 weeks. And just from the traffic alone, we've already seen traffic from 4 continents, 13 countries, and we're over 150 cities now. And those are the types of things that we're trickling out into our community to let them know that, hey, what we are doing is getting a lot of visibility, not just here. And really, we haven't done a huge public push yet. We've really just shared it with our community, and they are sharing that out the way that they share that out, likely through social media and friends and family.
Well, I think that's the power in the messaging. And I think, Aaron, what you alluded to with, our homepage, our website is a one-pager. It's simple, but it's very concise and clean. So it makes easily shareable. That's a good lesson for all industries, right? We definitely have to have that balance between words and explaining what we do. But if people can't remember what you do and who you are very quickly, there's just too many messages hitting them right now. They can't absorb it.
Exactly. And, I think that's kind of been our mantra all along is simplicity, and again, it's so easy to get wrapped up and caught up in details, but every time you distill it back down, I feel like you get a better, cleaner product ultimately.
Yeah. Well, and then the other piece to keeping this simple that we should touch on is you had already created a partnership with the Forest Service here locally. So that also made this project easy to kind of move forward because logistically you didn't have to handle the actual planting. Like your students and community is planting the trees, but you didn't have to do the logistics of getting the seedlings and where they need to go and having the knowledge of how to do them appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah. So building community partnerships, I think is vital really to any fundraising effort. It not only helps the project along, but it really helps to ensure long-term success. So there is absolutely no way we could have done this project had we not, worked to create that relationship with the Forest Service. And they are so excited about the project and the future. They see it moving forward, and they see the benefits of it. They see the benefits of partnering, with our community to continue this project. So every year it'll have a different iteration, it'll have a different planting area or planting zone. But it really worked out to be such a beautiful win-win. And so taking the time to really cultivate community partnerships, I think, is essential to any effort.
Well, and then, like you said, they included your project last year in their success stories. So again, you're getting more reach to a new audience that is also directly in line with the mission you're trying to do. So
Absolutely.
Collaborations help get you in front of new audiences. They help you build your base, build more trust with potential donors and participants. So yeah.
And, those community partnerships are not even necessarily the one, they're not necessarily just only the no-brainer. I mean, like we've been working with the city of Bend and the people who are leading the new climate action for Bend, and looking at how does it integrate to things that are even greater than, what we're working on. So looking at where circles can overlap and who those potential partners, can be. So the city of Bend is doing about this project of the carbon offset representation. And they're also looking at utilizing this project as an example for other community members. Like, hey, the Waldorf School of Bend has done this cool forest reforestation project. Look at their metrics, look at how they brought it together, and utilizing it as a model. And in doing that, they're sharing it out to their community resources. So cross-pollination is, again, it's a huge success factor, I think, for fundraising, that ultimately gets you so far beyond where you thought your near milestone markers are.
Well, that's the beauty too of nonprofits, is you've got your board and you've got your community. And a lot of times maybe you have people inside your base that can't give money. And so they shy away from these fundraisers, right? Maybe they're just not capable. But when you're talking about something like this, that's $10 for one tree, correct, people have a network of people they can reach out to. So even if you're saying to your base, hey, you don't have to give us money, but give us contacts, like give us businesses that are now environmentally friendly minded that might be looking for a way to spend some of their donation dollars. I think the beauty of your story gives people more of a way to give back, even if it's not in dollars, to help you build those collaborations and build those community resources. So Rob, now that Aaron's come up with this wonderful idea and you're the new development chair, does that mean that your work is less, or does it mean that we just continue to grow? I mean, I'm just wondering if some of these volunteers out here are like, oh, I just need to create this killer campaign, and then my job as development chair for the board becomes easy.
No. I've been leaning into this, maybe not as hard as Aaron, but I think I'm probably pretty close. Just because I want to see it succeed as well. And it is, it's going to become a huge component to how our school reaches out into the community and does community service. And it does have the fundraising aspect to it as well. As I was saying earlier, when you asked about if it was easier for me to take this job, once I heard about the idea from Aaron, it's yes, because of all of that. So it's been a lot of work, but I don't regret any of it. I don't feel stressed out by it. I feel energized by it. And so I wish I had more hours in the day to work on it. And I'm glad I was the one that she sent the email to. Let's put it that way.
Well, this is the sort of project, I think, for most of our committee members, it's like, God, I want a job. Because it is so inspiring, and in how you get to message and what message and who you get to message it to. we have, everyone we've talked to is been, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. How can we support you? And so, those all make our volunteer hours easy, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I think the lesson out there for everyone that is trying to come up with unique ways to fundraise, whether it's over the holidays or to replace your annual fund, whatever, it's all about, I think the magic of this is the authenticity, the way that it cleanly and clearly aligns with the mission and the vision of the school and where it's going. And then the way that it clearly aligns with our community at large, Central Oregon. Because it checked, like you said earlier, Erin, checked so many boxes, it was an easy win. So, really encouraging people to think about maybe, think outside of what you've been doing and how can you maybe process things a little bit differently to come up with a concept that excites and ignites people. So if people, were you going to say something else?
No, I was just completely agreeing with you. Yeah, no, it's, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about Forest for Good, find out how they can participate, how they can donate, how do they do that? Does this campaign end? When is the tree planting? All of that good stuff.
Well, you can go to our beautiful website, forestforgood.com. There's a bunch of great information there, about the project. There's multiple donate buttons. I think under every section there is a donate now button. So it'll get you right to the donation portal. And every tree makes a difference. So it is, and we are so grateful to, to take every dollar amount for the project. It's been, what's been so fantastic is, $10 donations add up quickly, and I think that's another thing for people to keep in mind, rather is working to go after the huge donors, 100 small donors can equal one large donor, and it's again, a factor that we hadn't really keyed in on.
Well, I'll add some things in here. So we are going to be out and around the Central Oregon area with some holiday booths starting right after Thanksgiving. We'll be at Sisters Coffee House December 14th and 15th. And we will also be at Patagonia here in Bend on a future to be determined date.
Awesome.
So if you would like to join us on our planting dates, they are going to be May 1st and 2nd of 2020. So we'll be up in the Sisters 3 Wilderness area, up off the 15. So we've got 50 to 60 acres to plant. So we are taking as many community volunteers who want to come out and join us. That's one of the other, we think, win-win scenarios. So not only do people project, but then they get the opportunity to come be a part of the project. So, boots on the ground, the dirt, making a difference. And, we're inviting our community to actually be a part.
Yeah, and we will link up all of these dates, locations, websites, social media, everything in the show notes. So you can get that at thefirstclick.net/33. And the show notes will be there. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for coming and being on this episode. I think what you're doing is really inspiring, not just from a community standpoint and how you're fundraising for the school, but also just to inspire other organizations that their next big idea is out there, and not to get beaten down by fundraising, because it can sometimes be a difficult thing.
It is. It can be daunting. But there is inspiration abounds. And I feel like if people can just, function from that realm, you'll be wildly successful.
Yep. I agree.
So, And Sammy, thank you so much for your time and this opportunity. We are so grateful for all the work and for us and for Forest for Good. So we're so grateful.
Well, thank you. No, it's a super fun project. And that's kind of the last thing that I'll say too, is as a volunteer coming in, when it is a project that lights you up, just like Rob was saying, it's so much easier to give when you can align with your volunteers that energy as well. So thank you for letting me be a part of it. And I thank you guys so much for being on this episode. And I hope you get a lot more eyeballs from a lot more continents and cities and countries on that website.
Thanks,
wonderful. Thank you.
I want to say a big thank you again to Rob and Aaron for joining me on this episode and sharing Forest for Good with all of you. Again, head on over to our show notes and you can get those at thefirstclick.net/33 for all the information about Forest for Good and how you can participate in that program. And remember, if you don't choose to give to Forest for Good, that's totally fine, but be charitable this holiday season and find that nonprofit that you can give back to, whether it's volunteer hours or money this holiday season. That's my challenge to you. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you listen so that you don't miss out an episode. Remember, we're coming to you twice a week now on Tuesdays and Fridays. So I look forward to being with you on your 2020 journey and helping you build your business to the best that it's ever been. We'll see you in the next episode.